there's an old gag. It's a Bob Monkhouse gag, and it reminded me of David Moyes for some bizarre reason. You probably know the gag. The gag was nicked, actually, in that relatively recent Joker film that Joaquin Phoenix was in. Of course, Bob Monkhouse, stand-up comedian. And the gag when something like, people laughed when I said I wanted to be a stand-up comedian. They're not laughing now. It's a good gag. But it reminded me of David Moyes, as I say. And it's because I laughed at David Moyes at one point, and I'm not laughing now. And the reason I laughed at David Moyes was because after his first stint, which I thought he did well, he kept us up, he fulfilled his remit, but it wasn't the prettiest, it wasn't the best football we've ever seen at West Ham, that's for sure. But it was fine, it suited the purpose, it suited the job. But there was nothing within, I felt, that first stint that he did that suggested A, he would produce attacking football, B, that he had a grasp of varied tactics. In fact, I've got to be honest, I thought we were dealing with a one-trick pony very much with Moyes. But something happened in between that stint and this second stint. Because that's really, I think, what forced David Sullivan to go and look for Pellegrini. I don't think we wanted Pellegrini, by the way, as fans. But I also don't think we particularly wanted Moyes. He was a little bit boring in terms of the style he played. Very defensive, didn't have much possession, didn't shoot much on goal. So he went looking for an attacking manager. And he went and found Pellegrini. Wasn't many, despite how it's been spun, Pellegrini wasn't many people's choice. I remember it from doing videos and all the comments, which you can go back and check and see. Anyway, the point is that David Moyes was not seen as an attacking manager. Well, I'll tell you what he is now, right? And anyway, in between his two stints, just before we reappointed him, a load of videos started popping up on YouTube. And these videos, you might remember them, were entitled David Moyes, Coaching Masterclass, Tactics Masterclass, Pressing Masterclass. And I saw all those and I laughed. I did. I thought, oh, goodness sake, it's David Moyes. Why is he doing these coaching seminars? Why are we seeing him? Why is he almost pretending? Why are people making out he has this variation of tactics? And I did. I saw these videos entitled Masterclass and I laughed. And to go back to start the video, I'm not laughing now. I'm really not. Something happened in between him leaving West Ham and him starting his second stint at West Ham. And as I understand it, I may have mentioned it in a review yesterday, that he travelled around Europe. He went and visited different academies, different coaches. He brushed up on his coaching badges, basically. I couldn't tell you exactly what he did, but that was the general consensus. That was the story around it. That's what he went and did. And it's always good to learn new things, because I do think, as I mentioned yesterday, there's a number of managers. Allardyce would be the choice one, would be the obvious one, who gets stuck in their ways and they don't really modernise. Now, Allardyce would tell you different. Allardyce would tell you he uses a complex analytic system. He would have the best masseuses and the best physios and would embrace sports science. That much is true. I'm not talking about the technology in terms of diet and things like that. I think everybody, unless you're a madman, would go and do that. But I'm actually talking about the ethos of how your team play, and about different strategies and about different tactics. Because by and large, I think actually on the field of play, Allardyce didn't really change his spots. And there's a number of managers who I think you would suggest, I think surely some of you and many of you would, are like that. The lists are numerous. I'm not going to go through it all now, but you've all probably got managers in mind. I thought David Moyes was one of those managers. I thought David Moyes was old school. I thought David Moyes was not for turning. He was not for changing. But he has. And of course, there's one very, very successful manager who always embraced new ideas, and that was Sir Alex Ferguson, arguably the best and most successful manager there's been, certainly in the Premier League, that's for sure. I've been so impressed with what I've seen from Moyes. And I guess, I don't know what the first inkling was, But certainly the Aston Villa game against Grealish should have been a massive indication for us. And I remember doing the build-up with Gio, and when Fredericks was announced, and we were not happy. We thought, well, what are we doing? This is ridiculous. Actually, it turned out that David Moyes knew an awful lot more than we did. And so he should, by the way. He's the one being paid millions of pounds a year, and let's be fair, he should know an awful lot more than the bloke sat in a shed, which is what I am, of course. But I felt he showed it then, and I thought, okay, all right, maybe he knows what he's doing. And I think it's sort of gone from there, and there's been a number of games where he's just outsmarted the opposition. I think there's some whereby he hasn't quite grasped the nettle. I think particularly some of the bigger teams he's not gone for because of reputation. I would use the Liverpool game last season as an example. Liverpool were a wounded animal, and I felt like he treated them with too much respect, almost like they were the Liverpool with Kenny Dalglish and John Toshak and, you know, the Graham Souness and whatnot. They weren't that. They were a wounded animal. They were without their best centre halves. We didn't go for it. We sat back and invited them onto us. But by and large, I think he's got his tactics spot on. And this was a really interesting a chess game, really, with Brendan Rodgers on this occasion. Because we put 6 goals past them last season, of course. And even though they came back late in the second game, I felt we were the deserved winners. We were the better team. So it's 3 games now. We've been the better team in all the games against Brendan Rodgers. And it's significant because they finished 5th and we finished 6th. These are our direct competition. And it's actually a hell of a thing to do, bearing in mind, let's not only rest on the Premier League, didn't rest on their laurels. They carried on from that wonderful platform of winning the Premier League, and they have been, aside from the very top guys of Liverpool, Man City and whatnot, for the last few years have been one of the better teams in the Premier League. They recruit well, they do everything well. Let's be perfectly honest, they're an example of how a club should be run. So for us to be in a position where we are almost their direct challengers now is miraculous, and it's just down to Moyes, really, because Moyes has only been afforded, he's been afforded the same opportunity as Pellegrini, less opportunity than Pellegrini, because Pellegrini was allowed to go and spend 42 million on Haller, 36 on Anderson, possibly. I'm roughly there with the figures. And what he's done is amazing. And Rodgers is a good coach, a good tactician himself. And Moyes defeated him in the game of tactical chess twice last season with the 3 at the back. And if you watch our build-up, it made sense for him to go 3 at the back this time. And I felt that Rodgers would have been expecting 3 at the back this time, but he didn't. He went with a 4 again. It was another tactical shift. Once again, we didn't press high and press the centre halves. Yet you watch Moyes' team, some games will press the centre halves. So he's clearly looking at different teams and thinking, I'll do something differently for them. He was quite happy for them to have the ball there. Yet as soon as they crossed the halfway line, we'd snap at them. The goal came from there. He did exactly the same against Newcastle. I have a feeling that he's going to do that, and that's what he does against the teams with very, very fast attackers, be it Saint-Maximin Wilson against Newcastle, obviously Jamie Vardy, Patson Daka when he came on. Because I don't feel he wants to... He's not going to press high up the pitch because he doesn't want to leave a lot of space behind for those fast forwards to run into. In many respects, his tactics negate the defensive frailties that Dawson has, which is basically pace. And it works an absolute treat. And if you look at the first goal for us against Leicester, and also look at the goal where Declan Rice nicks the ball off Saint-Maximin against Newcastle, you're dealing with with similar attributes. Not the same goal, but you get the idea. Declan Rice wins the ball on the halfway line, and we attack at pace and score very, very quickly. And I wouldn't be surprised if Brendan Rodgers went into that game scratching his head, thinking, "What on earth is he doing here? He's not playing the 3 at the back. No, he's playing 4." So he had to hurriedly try and devise his own tactics. Brendan Rodgers. They didn't know what to do. So you've got a Brendan Rodgers team who Rodgers' own ethos and playing the ball is on the deck and tippy-tappy and whatnot. By the way, West Ham can play some tippy-tappy ourselves. Let's get that absolutely right. But they didn't know what to do. They kept on launching it long. They had one shot on target, I think. I've not checked the stats. That's just about an hour and a half since the game finished. I'm recording this now, and I think that was it. But I just thought it was a really magnificent display from David Moyes there. And the longer he goes on, the more he carries himself with more and more authority. And I've thought for some time that he's the best manager that we've had in a long, long time. And it's actually, the more you look at it, he's the one. He's the signing. He is the important signing. Because people, I've been listening to people all week really talking about other teams and other fans talking about other teams, and there was this big conversation about Mikel Arteta and Pep Guardiola, and people were saying Pep Guardiola makes players better. Well, it's fashionable to say that. You know what? David Moyes makes players better. David Moyes has made Aaron Cresswell better, that's for sure. I just think it's a miraculous thing that he's done, really. And for us to be looking after the start of the season, forget the fact that we're top. We won't finish top. We all know we won't finish top. But that's not really the point. The point is that we go into the next game against Crystal Palace with real hope, and dare I say expectation, that we can beat them and get 9 points from our first 3 games. This is unprecedented. Well, I would say unprecedented, but it's not. This matches last season, not the start, I understand that, but you know what I mean. Being able to win games, going and expecting to win games, and having a plus goal difference. And it also matches the style and the form that we were playing at the start of his second stint, just after lockdown. We've been playing well for a very, very long time now, and I've been sort of banging this drum for a little while. But these are good times at West Ham. Anyway, that's a different video for a different day. But in terms of tactics, in terms of manager, in terms of a coach, in terms of a tactical plan that you can get behind as a fan, I've got to be honest with you, I'm struggling. Probably John Lyle. In fact, it is John Lyle. As I was going to say, I'm struggling to remember a time when West Ham were as good as this and as tactically sharp as this.